just to have it not necessarily to play 2 throughout the game, but to be more likely to find 1 in combination with a Rhino, because there is a way potentially to beat Demon Hunter by kind of forcing them to have a big Moarg type of clear, and then you can punish that by immediately playing the Rhino afterward. We'll get into that matchup maybe a bit later though, because Surrender is going to start off with the handlock here. Asia Pacific has kind of defaulted most people to Alan's list with the double Altar of Fire in there, but Surrender is not to be swayed. He is not running even a single copy of it.
Yes, and I understand what he's going for. It is mostly just a very old school list. He's got a Netheron, the Battlegrounds Battlemaster, almost all 2-ofs in the list there. But I have to say, I've just been so convinced by Altar of Fire over the last couple of weeks with the prevalence of Demon Hunter, maybe Surrender was going for a banned Demon Hunter strategy as his main course of action. I would be unsurprised to see that. But of course, Alan does not have the OTK Demon Hunter, so he's still doesn't have to run into that, but still, just the Altar of Fire, even in aggressive matchups like this, to get down to to get down to Bristlebacks and the Scavengers is so powerful to get into the later stage of your deck. But to start things off, it's a reasonable enough hand for Surrender. He's got the Backfire and some early plays. It's just going to have to be able to withstand the onslaught from Alan in what is a very powerful starting hand.
This, in fact, was a full keep from Surrender, which is pretty interesting because while you can argue that Tour Guide plus Mortal Coil probably allows you to remove something of the shape of this Intrepid Initiate, Tour Guide by itself also lets you trade pretty well against a Volpertinger opener. I'm not sure what kind of curve Surrender is going for. I like starting with Tour Guide over the Quest, but I guess he leaves himself some flexibility as to whether he wants to play Quest plus tap and hope to get something else other than the Mortal Coil then, or coin Backfire in 2 turns.
Okay, Alan going with a fairly risky play. I was looking at Neophyte first and then the Bone Chewer Brawler plus the Orc Merchant, just so you guarantee the Divine Shield on it. But I guess here by saying you have to have the immediate answer of Drain Soul or Unstable Shadow Blast, he can then just follow up with Cult Neophyte going into a turn 4 play where Soul Rend becomes a possibility.
Yeah, I do think that is the main idea for Alan here. You can argue that if there's Divine Shield on your Bone Chewer Brawler, you don't necessarily need to Soul Rend anyway, so I wouldn't have hated the Neophyte turn on 2. It's also pretty annoying for Surrender if he's spent turn 1 not playing Quest, but I think this play also works out for Alan and maybe preserves even more health in the realm where there is no Drain Soul in the hand, which for Surrender has the possibility of being coined out now, but he is choosing to get the Quest online and maybe save the healing for when it's actually healing him.
Yeah, I do like this because there's obviously the fear of Guardian Orc Merchant is the main one. Divine Shields are very annoying to deal with as handlock, but you have the Mortal Coil and the Drain Soul, and now Touch of the Nathrazim as well. He should be in a position, I think, where he can chew through that Divine Shield relatively easily, especially when he draws Touch of the Nathrazim into Touch of the Nathrazim. He's just got every cheap removal piece in his deck right now.
However, the Neophyte makes the turn not nearly as clean as it would have been otherwise. And if he wants to go for any piece of removal, that's pretty much the entire turn. We could see just Drain Soul here to be the most mana efficient. And then next turn he could go for Mortal Coil double touch. He'll only heal off of one of those touches, but that's okay, I think. Oh, unless he puts the coil on the shield and just doesn't take the draw.
I think I'd be okay fine with that. Yeah, you've got Backfire and Raise Dead to recoup some of the value that you've lost later on as well.
So I'm liking Drain Soul for this turn. Yep, here on the Neophyte. Surrender, not really looking to get fancy with Raise Dead on just 1 minion. It's not quite worth it yet here. The main point of these early turns is only for Warlock to stem the bleeding, because Hunter really wants to just go for these sort of annoying boards in the early game. A couple of minions that are sticky, even if they only get to attack once or twice, that can put the handlock within range of things like aimed shot towards the end of the game. But if Surrender doesn't take too much damage from those, he is much safer to tap and find his Bloodshard Bristlebacks.
I do like the look of tracking on this turn. I feel like it's obviously hard for Alan to know because he hasn't seen the extra Touch to the Nathrazim, the answer to this Bristleback. Because if the answer isn't there, you could theoretically go for Felmore Hero Power, try and go for the very aggressive route, and hope that the 4-2 Brawler can just get there with a bunch of hits face. But if it is answered, which is relatively likely, you really want to have tracking into Barret, Kodobane, maybe Rhino, maybe a Wrangler as well. You need to outvalue them in the mid-game.
Ooh. Yeah, it also doesn't discount the possibility of still just playing the Felmaw.
True.
Of course, it floats a bit of mana and he misses a hero power, but that's all right. I think the Felmaw can still get some damage going through towards the mid-game here. Oh, we talked about this play last turn. There is access to Coil the Shield, double Touch of the Nathrazim, heal all the way up to 29. Does float a bit of mana, so we could see Surrender tap first. Although with the Anetheron, it's super tempting to weave a Backfire in there somehow, but I don't think he can realistically get the Anetheron down for 1 in this game.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go Backfire for a Anetheron. I kind of just want to go Backfire for Backfire's sake. It's just good here, right? You can go Backfire, Coil, Coin, Touch of the Nathrazim to kill off the Bone Chewer Brawler. Leaving the 2-1 hurts, but you still have the second touch to clear it off next turn.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's also important to think about when the Felmaw wakes up, you would much rather have at least 1 minion on board to give it a 50-50 of not hitting your face, and the Backfire helps him find smaller minions like the other Tour Guide, a Neophyte, even a Goldshire Null you might take at this point. Surrender giving it a lot of thought here, because if he does Backfire, he does have to expend the coin to then deal with the 4-2, so it's still a lot of cards out of the hand, but he is going for it.
Yeah, he doesn't really have time to see what he gets. He just needs to go for it. But okay, second Tour Guide, Raised Dead, and then another Drain Soul. Realistically, at this point, he's just kind of hoping to tap down into Tamsin, I guess. Little Tamsin to copy with the Drain Soul and the Touch of the Nathrazim. But even just these Tour Guides Raised Deading over and over again is a lot of mana he has available.
It is. But the thing is, I don't know if he has time to tap to find Tamsin, and if she doesn't come off the top here next turn, then he will get almost no value off of Tamsin from this point, because it does feel like he has to use these removal pieces, at least the touch here. Oh, this is a little too clean, right? Backfire, that completes quest stage 1, and then he can go Tour Guide and touch. If he finds the other Mortal Coil, he can do that instead of the touch. But just getting a minion on board is amazing, because Alan's first Felmaw is going to wake up next turn. Oh, there's Tamsin. Now we're saving the touch now.
Yeah, it could just be Null now, right, instead, and go with the Tamsin plus all the shenanigans next turn, all the trimmings.
Yeah, it's amazing. In the scenario where Alan's Felmaw goes face, you have then Tamsin Drain Soul Touch, and you get to save the 0-cost copies in hand. If it trades into the 5-2, you're happy anyway.
Yeah, not a disastrous face hit, as you said. It does leave something guaranteed to be able to hit with the Tamsin on the following turn. Bit of a weird turn here, though, for Alan. It probably ends up being Piercing Shot just while there's a good target, right?
That was my first instinct, but you can think about Rinling's Rifle, because you have to get 2 turns to get the full damage from it, whereas the Piercing Shot is immediate if you do draw into something cheap to proc it with. In terms of what secret you would like to get from the Rinling, maybe even freezing here just to be as aggressive as possible, make that Null go back into the hand. Although freezing on Null isn't especially powerful because it's still going to be relatively cheap. So I think in the end, I do agree with Piercing Shot.
Quickly.
You could also go with one of the proc-on attack into a minion secrets, like Snake Trap or the Pack Tactics as well, but I think you're more likely to see a spell to be removing off that minion at that point, and so in the end, Alan agrees, getting the damage while he can, because theoretically, we're of course looking at potential lethal next turn if this Felmaw can go face.
Yeah, even without the Rinling's Rifle, but Surrender has the perfect answer. Tamsin Drain Soul Touch, and what that does is it, aside from healing him for 7, so he goes back up to 14, if the Felmaw goes either target, it's just gonna be alive, right? So he can then use the 0-cost copies on the Felmaw. Problem is 14 enough if the Felmaw goes face? That would leave Surrender at 9, and Alan has 7 mana. So he would be dead to something like Aimed Shot, Quick Shot hero power, but it's a pretty specific combination.
Yep, double aim shot doesn't do it. Double quick shot doesn't do it. It's very specifically has to be pretty much exactly those two cards, or even Rhino doesn't get the job done, even with the Tamsin left on board. So I agree. It's just very, very clean. Surrender's plays have just been kind of prescriptive so far. You just follow the curve, play your powerful cards, and you're happy.
Right. Absolutely. Go for the touch here. Even though there is a world where Surrender is dead the next turn, it's so unlikely because first the Felmaw has to hit a 50-50 and then Alan has to have the good combination of cards. But the Felmaw goes exactly where Surrender wants it to. He's sitting on another 7 points of healing next turn. And Alan is running out of time. He did get a cheap card though, so he can choose to draw off this quick shot if he wants.
I think I'm leaning more towards hero power on this turn. Right, you'll have 2 draws next turn if you factor in the quick shot you play it next turn, and you'll have 6 mana to play them all. Like, there are definitely hands where you run out of mana, but I think just the extra 2 damage is worth it.
Well, Alan has to think what is the best possible outcome if he draws off of Quickshot right now. You could argue Barak Kodo Bane, but is that the type of draw he needs? Does it have to be that perfect from this space? Because he knows that if he plays Vulpertinger, then the Felmaw and one of the 2 tokens gets blown up immediately for 0 mana by Surrender. So it does have to be relatively perfect. We'll see though. He's gonna see what secret he gets first.
Freezing, probably.
Yeah. Or another Knoll maybe at some point, or a Giant.
Weaving it in. Weaving it in. He's seen a lot of the removal so far, but has he seen enough? Because another Drain Soul, another touch of the Nathrazim as well is going to be able to chew through pretty much this entire board. And Surrender can even look at proccing Quest Stage 2 and actually putting his own pressure on the board, because with Raise Dead into very likely a Null, you could get a Netheron down as well. There are some really powerful plays available.
Definitely so. Looks like he's going to see what the tap is first. He has the Bristleback active now as well. I think Alan's just out of this one.
It does look that way, huh? You can go Raise Dead, a Netheron, Bristleback. Oh my lord, it's so powerful.
3 Giant, full clear.
Oh.
Yeah. Obviously the Tamsin doesn't get any more value from this point because everything already costs 0, but whatever. He just gets to play a million stats, heal for 13 this turn. And he even has a tour guide, so, and a 3/3, so those are easy ways to proc Freezing Trap.
Yeah, just playing everything Neophyte as well, absolutely perfect. To lock out any kind of weird Barak Kodo Bane chain draws, I don't know, some kind of nonsense that could occur. And like you said, Alan, I think, just got hit with the good half of Surrender's deck. All the removal pieces, all the healing pieces. Didn't even need a Soul Rend at this point because he'd just been removing everything with targeted spells.
Well, Wrangler can pull the other Vulpertinger, and that would allow him to draw off of Quick Shot, because I do think he has to Quick Shot the lifesteal to have any chance of... there is no chance, but maybe.
Yeah, not really. He can go Quick Shot the 3/3 and then I guess swing into Neophyte? I don't know. Maybe it's just better to go face and accept that Freezing Trap isn't doing anything.
Maybe he can hit Explosive off of the second trap.
True, yeah.
But, you know, with a Neophyte draw, it's just nowhere near, even with the additional 4 damage he would have gotten from Explosive plus Face Swing.
So obviously has the out of a draw with BGBM, right, is his first thought process.
I think for Surrender here, as long as he can go face with the tour guide, or go somewhere in order to proc the Freezing Trap.
Right.
And even if he Soul Rends and deletes his own Anetheron after the Anetheron goes face, it's okay, because dealing 16 just allows you for a Flesh Giant to clear everything at the end of it. Or to beat Alan at the end of it, rather.
Looks like where he's heading. Send everything else to the face.
It contributes to his quest, that's funny.
Oh yeah, true. I've never actually seen that before.
Almost out of time.
Oh man, do you even go for Soul Rend? Like, just Bristleback alone on one of these minions surely just locks out the game.
Everything wins.
Yeah.
Like Soul Rend double Neophyte's fine, Bristleback Neophyte's fine.
It's all good. And Alan, I don't see a single series of draws that can get him there. He concedes the Warlock getting a win is a big deal. I don't know if Alan had a hard target on Warlock, but again, these kind of aggressive decks that can get underneath all of that removal, getting at least 1 or 2 wins versus Warlock would have been very big. And with that now ticked out of the way, things start to look a little bit scarier for Alan.
Certainly does, but if the lineup building is to be believed, there is still a target on the other side in the Demon Hunter from Surrender. Of course, Alan has banned away the Garrote Rogue. We've also heard from Bunny Hopper that Garrote Rogue is indeed the priority ban for such a lineup. So the Demon Hunter, I think, is a reasonable target here. In theory, once again, the Paladin has been banned away, so actually we don't get to see the matchup that I feel like it is mostly just a theory and doesn't actually work on paper. But I'm willing to believe that Aggro Druid is favored versus the OTK Demon Hunter. Alan, however, has an interesting build of the Aggro Druid with only 1 copy of Far Watch Post, which I thought was the most amazing card in that matchup.
I agree. That seems like a very weird omission. Alan has gone on Twitter, I think, quite saying that he's very happy with his lineup. He loves every single one of his cards, so he clearly has it's clearly not an oversight, I would imagine, if he is going for the anti-Demon Hunter strategy. I'm sure he's thought of this, but it does seem a little bit weird. I guess it makes room for... I'm trying to see what he's got in its stead, because he's also missing a Neophyte in there, like a Nature Studies, I suppose, is what he's got in there to try and discount Arbor Up. It's kind of interesting.
In fact, I don't even think Cult Neophyte is core to this deck, but the Nature Studies as a one-of is a pretty cool tech inclusion. I kind of like it just to be another activator for the Toad of the Wilds if you're running that, but he's not actually running it. So Alan purely just trying to get a bit more flexibility maybe, or get his Arbor up to be able to come down on turn 4. That's something you can do in that deck, is just bank the Nature Studies, pick whatever. All it's doing is ramping your Arbor up. We are going to see this exact matchup though. The OTK Demon Hunter is obviously just the same as what we've been seeing for quite some time. Surrender is, however, going for the Restaurant Viper in place of a Philosophy, which is pretty interesting because I feel like having one Philosophy I've always been fond of, just to make sure I can dump a Moarg a bit more leniently.
It's very true. It's a very tight trade-off that you have, because one of the things I liked from Alan last week, who had no philosophies and I believe only 1 I-beam as well, is just the consistency of draw that came off double jump. Being able to so much more reliably complete your quest is worth so much in the early game, even against the aggro decks where I-beam and philosophy can be reasonably good early game cards. Just completing your quest is still the most important thing in those matchups. So I understand it from Surrender, but it does mean you are walking a tightrope while you're playing this deck. You have no training wheels at all, and you have to be able to use all your combo pieces in just the right way.
And it's an awkward hand for Surrender because it looks like he has to wait till turn 4 to get Quest Stage 1 done. This Acrobatics is locking in the Spectral side from being outcast, but he has, however, picked up a Moarg, which is a very decent card to just throw down on curve in this matchup. But like we brought up a while ago, without an extra Philosophy, sometimes you come to regret it.
Alan being an absolute lad here, despite what you may think with 2 mules in hand, this isn't going to be breaking any spectator bug, because those are both just regular mules drawn in the opening hand, so no copying and breaking the spectator here. We appreciate what you're doing, Alan.
I do think there is some copying on the horizon, maybe with Oracle of the Elune instead, though, copied when it hits the board, rather when it enters the hand, because we've seen this from Alan so many times, right? Even if he didn't have a 1-drop here, I'm pretty sure he would wait to just coin out the Elune rather than playing a 2-into-2 curve, so then he can get amazing value from it afterward. With the pickup of the Squirrel, it becomes even easier because now he doesn't even have to float any mana.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I fully agree that the plan was always pass into coin Elune, but I think what he was wondering there was if you actually just pass anyway, because you can then go for coin a loon and fully spend your mana on turn 3. I do still think this is correct, because your opponent isn't necessarily going to clear it off on 1, and you're fairly likely to draw another 1 cost minion before that point. But it was close. There's still ways that you can experiment to min-max your early game as aggro druid.
Yeah, that's definitely true, but I think maybe because it's specifically Squirrel, it's a card you kind of want to die as soon as possible anyway. Although with the Moarg hitting the board this early for Alan, that does kind of mess with his plans, because by no means is the Elune safe, especially with a Moarg preloaded.
It's really tight, isn't it? Because you can look at it in a couple different ways, because with Moarg on board, as you said, there are many ways that the Oracle of Elune can die, but a lot of them are not that bad. If they go like Immolation Aura as the big one, that would obviously be fantastic for you because it clears off the rest of your minions. The really bad ones would be Tusk Piercer, I guess, or maybe I-Beam. But I can understand for Alan when you can't see your opponent's hand. It's just a little bit too scary to let rip with it.
I'd argue Fellscream Blast is a big punish there as well.
True.
Just having anything compound the 2 attack of the Moarg and be the rest of the 2 attack, and allowing the Moarg to value trade is just such a disaster, especially if you have to lose the coin for it. So I much prefer Alan going for the Bone Chewer Brawler here, maybe trying to fish for a bit of removal, and if it's not there, trade the Moarg, and maybe safely even save the Elune for turn 4 even, so he can play it and then coin out a 2-drop immediately. But as for Surrender here, like we said, because of the acrobatics, quest progression is very, very awkward, but he does have the opportunity to play a spider tank here, which I think is decent.
I'm on board. I think against Druid, as we've seen, they literally don't have removal in their deck unless you count Park Panther, which would admittedly be pretty good here as a coined out play. I think aside from that, you're just looking absolutely fine to go Rustrock Viper, but Surrender disagrees, wants to prioritize that quest progression by getting Spectral Sight into the outcast position.
Yeah, also gets him a couple more options, I suppose. The Viper, while it did look good to challenge the Bone Chewer, did end up being pretty awkward if Alan just goes for the VT on the Moarg here. You would, I guess, have the capability to hero power it and then have your Viper trade the next thing, but quest progression is well and truly delayed with this line, so I understand it from Surrender.
Oh, glide for 5. You got a thing or two to learn, Surrender, about how that card is played. As I think now, realistically, it's I-Beam hero power, right? That thing really, really has to die.
I grow
in the other order, but I agree.
Yes.
There is an opportunity to hero power and play Viper rather than I-Beam, but it's going to take such a long time before this I-Beam can get outcast from the left here. And Surrender is not guaranteed to have his Viper VT the 2-3 because there's so many taunt cards in this aggro druid that just makes it a little bit too scary to leave up for that long. So I think this is respectable here, but Alan now has the Elune follow-up.
Yeah, he's got a Loon. He's got theoretically Grey Bow, but maybe that's a little bit too risky. There are a few things that could go very wrong with that play. But ooh, that opens things up yet further. Would we rather have a Divine Shielded Oracle of Elune? It's not bad versus Demon Hunter.
Certainly not, but I feel like the 4 health breakpoint already saves it from most of the things the Divine Shield would save it from anyway, like a Fellscream Blast with spell damage. If you go for the Elune coin Pack Mule play, the next turn is awkward because you don't necessarily want to play just Grey Bow on curve while you have an Elune on board. You kind of want to get even more copy value. So if you go Elune plus the Og Merchant now, I guess you can save coin and hope to get another 2-drop and then play 3 2-drops next turn.
The other line that I think you could consider is just like Pack Mule, because if Alan keeps both Oracle Coin and Grey Bow in play, it means that there's the possibility of hitting the Razormane Battle Guard on the following turn, which would allow you to just almost win the game on the spot, it feels like, with the sheer amount of pressure that 2 Grey Bows would offer you. But he does, in the end, just want to go Grey Bow. It's hard to clear when you've already seen a Moarg, because, you know, Moarg I-Beam is realistically what you're looking at to be able to clear it off. And therefore, it's going to be likely to stick and likely to resummon when Alan makes a big board next turn.
Yeah, it still puts forward a similar amount of power and durability while giving Alan maybe one more turn to hold out for the Battle Guard, so you can definitely see that. Surrender gets, finally, first quest progression done. Hits an I-Beam, but doesn't quite have the mana to clear the Grey Bows. So with this remaining 2 mana, are we going to see Spectral Sight just to give him options for the next turn?
You really want to save that for the quest next turn if you can. Unless you're leading up into Glide, it's something you consider. Kurtrus 1 mana off, being the absolute stone cold nuts on this turn.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. I was going to bring up the studies, maybe get him something good, but once I thought about the 3 mana Outcast cards, there wasn't really very much. It's at 4 where you start getting things like Glide, Stelina, and the Kurtrus. First, Squirrel comes out for Alan here. Not particularly useful, but it's okay. Man, he's so tempted to go all in here, but without the insurance of either having composting or like just another like Battle Guard to go with the Allure, it can be a bit scary.
So you always need to think, is this the time where I have to go all in because I don't have any follow-up if the board is cleared anyway? To which the answer, I think, is no. He could go with like a semi-all-in play on this turn with Pack Mule, you know, maybe both Pack Mules and a 1-drop, Pack Mule 1-drop hero power. It's still a relatively threatening board, and if it's cleared, he has 1 turn's extra follow-up. But then it's a delicate balance that you're striking, right? If you don't go enough attack on board, the OTK Demon Hunter can just ignore it for a couple turns and move towards their win condition and kill you with the OTK. But if you put too much on board, then they're going to clear everything off and you don't have a follow-up. I think Alan's got the right balance of it here, but it's so hard to say.
Yeah, I do like what he's gone for here. This is quite a lot of pressure. It doesn't quite threaten just Arbor up off the top for lethal, so Surrender can be, he can play a bit scary here or a bit risky by leaving all of it up. But, I mean, if you're Surrender, this looks like a pretty clean opportunity to kill the Grey Bow while it is not giving its death rattle to anything.
Indeed. It's clever Divine Shield positioning by Alan because you can't just go Arcanist, Immolation, or to clear everything off simultaneously. You'd have to go Arcanist, Immo plus I-Beam or Hero Power it down first in order to be able to clear off everything cleanly.
Looks like Surrender is just going to prioritize quest completion because he's not dead to Arbor up on this board. So I think it's totally fine. He gets to play Tusk Piercer and Sigil for 0 here.
Which is pretty sick.
So with the remaining mana, does he just maybe play an I-Beam? Nope, he's gonna save it, play the expensive Tusk Piercer. Okay, never mind. He hovered the expensive Tusk Piercer. Wait. Okay. Oh yeah, I mean, there's no reason to equip it if you're not gonna swing.
Yeah, exactly. He's likely just gonna go Tusk Piercer, and override the first one to get the card drop on his Peddler. But now again for Alan, it's that tough spot. Is this the turn where you go in with Oracle of Elune? Probably not. I think you do if you're following his game plan. Hold off again. You're putting forward a decent amount of attack power. It's at least an awkward board, and you still have at least some amount of follow-up afterwards if you hold on to the Oracle.
Aw, the amount of mana floated is making me cringe, but he has to. Okay, he's playing 2 minions here instead of 1. Fair enough. This absolutely does warrant a big clear from Surrender, I think, because Arbor up is definitely lethal if he does not.
But clear Surrender can. He can go for, as I said, Hero Power, Arcanist, Immo. The question is just whether he can complete Quest afterwards as well, which he can with just Illidari Studies into 2-mana Glide. That's a possibility. Dreadlord's Bite is kind of interesting. He maybe doesn't even have to go for the Arcanist plus Immo if he has that much AoE.
That is sick. There's 2 squirrels and I feel like he still has to end up using Immo to get rid of the Greybow altogether.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm interested in the philosophy just to have like an extra Moarg around. Oh, okay, so what he can do here is just leave up the Greybow then. I think that's fine. He's not dead to Arbor up in that case.
And then he can finish off with 5-mana Glide just to be... I mean, I guess if you're shuffling in the other one, it goes back down to the same cost anyway, so you may as well just spend less mana.
Oh, he's got Sigil now as well.
Pretty good.
We can play that into Glide, but I mean, he really doesn't even need the Glide to finish quest at this point. Just break the weapon, trade back, right?
Yes. Fits it all in. Okay, we're happy.
Purchase in hand, Arcanist and Immolation Aura retained.
And man, here it is. The weakness of Greybow that we're starting to see is that, yes, it's very sticky. Against certain decks, 4 damage every turn is good enough. But it is a 5-mana 4/6. It's not especially well statted if it doesn't get repeated value off the Death Rattle. And we were talking about whether or not Alan is applying enough pressure to disrupt Surrender. It looks like this game, no. It was just very comfortable for Surrender to tank the damage for a few turns and still complete his quest.
Yeah, without an Arbor up drawn or a composting, even more relevant. I think here Alan had spare mana a couple turns in a row. If he could have just gotten something to accumulate more resources, maybe we could talk, but it was not meant to be here. He does have to put forward at least a Park Panther here, in my opinion, because you can't just let Surrender play Kurtrus and be alive, even against Arbor up. That would just be the end of the game.
Man, Alan's still refusing to go in with the Oracle and the Bone Cheer, saying, you know what, this can still get the job done if he can get, I don't know, composting, maybe Arbor up in a couple turns' time. The question, of course, just whether he can survive a couple turns, because now Kurtrus plus Acrobatics, now it is starting to get a little bit scary to leave this stuff on board.
I mean, it is just lethal if you leave it on board because the Park Panther and Hero Power is another 4 damage, so it's 12 total. So I think Alan's actually struck a good balance where he does force Surrender on removing or healing a little bit here. But Surrender can do that relatively comfortably, I'd say. Is there no I-beams left in the deck? Am I just blind?
He's used both, yeah. Okay.
So it's actually a bit awkward. Maybe he does just go for the Talented Arcanist and Spellscream Blast. Nope. You would have to then Hero Power as well, and the Greybow would leave it. But if you go Arcanist Immo, you're not able to play Kurtrus. It's actually really tough.
That 5 health is so awkward. The Divine Shield timing from Alan was absolutely spot on.
He is going to go for the clear, it looks like, and end up floating a bunch of mana. The double jump.
Okay, sure. Oh, there's nothing left. Okay, just burning double jumps from his deck. Fair enough.
Well, that's mission accomplished for Alan with that play in terms of disrupting Surrender enough that he had to both give up his best removal combo and not play Kurtrus that turn. But can Alan make good on it? He can play 3 Bone Chewer Brawlers.
True. And it feels like now has to be the time to go all in, right? Maybe if the second Immolation Aura is right at the bottom of the deck, even with the card draw and the glides that you know they have in hand, this is guaranteed double glide, because obviously the double jumps didn't draw anything. But what else are you waiting for at this point? The time has passed to be hesitant. You need to make one final push now.
Yep, I agree. We're going all in here. It once again requires Surrender to have a 2-card combination to deal with everything. I mean, everything is at 3 health or higher, so just Immolation is not cutting it. And if Surrender doesn't have that, in order to go digging, he probably plays Kurtrus first, which leaves him little mana to work with. So Alan just praying that Surrender doesn't have it. Oh, that's pretty good here.
Oh, that is pretty good. He's still got plenty enough in his deck to go for combo, and even outside of that, just I think a 5-mana 7/7 Kurtrus will probably get the job done against this Druid.
I grow impatient.
So if we're looking at Kurtrus, Talented Arcanist plus the Fellscream Blast, that deals with things very nicely. I mean, you leave a Loons on board, but it's okay.
Yeah.
You have double you have Acrobatics in hand and 10 mana. I think you're pretty likely to find the lethal, even if Alan gets runner squirrels or something.
Yeah, so the punish is like a couple squirrels and then Annoyatron? Is that the most annoying minion? I mean, obviously it is, but the Divine Shield Taunt, it just means that Kurtrus is going to be very unlikely to get through for a while.
Yeah. But I'm saying here, if you just play Kurtrus this turn, you're never dead the next turn, even to top deck Arbor up, and even if you can't get through with Kurtrus, you probably find lethal. Yep, Strander's going for it. I wonder if Alan was supposed to distance his taunts in terms of positioning for Fellscream Blast.
I don't know if he could, right? Because you have to go double a Loon first, and then they always
true.
spawn next to each other, I believe.
Yeah, good catch.
But he could have placed both his Loons next to each other if he wanted to, and I don't know if that's better or worse necessarily.
Yeah, probably doesn't make a
worse.
big difference.
Yeah. Well, triple Peasant. He's going full Warcraft here, getting his economy on point. But I don't know if it's going to be enough. There's still another Immolation Aura in the deck for Surrender, which he has... oh, he already has it in hand, sorry, which he can go for to just clear up all of this nonsense.
Does he not just win here? There's only 6 cards left in the deck.
Probably, yeah.
There's... the last 3 cards are 3 tradables and Il'gynoth. So if you go Moarg... you're not guaranteed to get it from the Glide is the thing. But this is effectively lethal if he just goes for like Immolation Aura and then Il'gynoth, Moarg, Fellscream, and then you just get the board and you win off the board next turn.
Yeah, I don't think there's any punishes that can get through this. Even with the Tect in Nature Studies, there's basically no removal left in Druid. Celestial Alignment isn't going to do it. Runic Carvings isn't big enough to clear off any of the big minions. Try attacking 4 times into Il'gynoth with that and see what happens. I think that's just a lock with the minions.
And it's a disaster for Alan.
Oh, yes.
The 2 decks he was soft targeting with the lineup have gotten through by this point, which means he has to try and sweep the Face Hunter from Surrender.
The Face Hunter, oh, it doesn't feel great, does it? Especially with the Paladin banned away. It means that Alan has left the Face Hunter mirror. Okay, obviously that's a mirror. It's 50-50. The Druid, I would argue, is slightly favored. I think your board dominating abilities in this early game are slightly better than the Hunter. And then the Rogue, which again I would call a slight favorite. So it's not impossible here for Alan, as I do think he has a reasonable shot against the Hunter. But Surrender with 3 shots to hit the high roll is looking to be in a very good spot.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Surrender's build of the Face Hunter perhaps favors Alan a little bit more because Surrender is running Imprisoned Felma, which I generally only like when I'm facing Demon Hunter and Warlock, and Tuttle likes it in 0 situations. So in that case, having a more aggressively built Hunter can be better. Alan also has a Felma of his own, so incidentally it just kind of evens out. But Alan has double True Aim Crescent, which could be an advantage in the mirror. I think that allows you to get a bit more efficiency with the trades overall. The Druid, you did outline how it's probably got a decent matchup versus the Hunter because everything has taunt and your minions are pretty sticky overall. It's really this Rogue that I wonder if it can get over the line because Alan has included this Talented Arcanist tech, which I don't believe is in there for the Hunter matchup.
It doesn't feel that way, does it? Yeah, much more for the flexibility, I guess, of using your ethereal org merchants. If you were to face down druids or warriors that can gain a lot of armor, it works nicely there as well. And also, just one brain freeze even is the real big one there for Alan that I think could be hurting him potentially in this matchup. But we'll have to see, because for the most part, Surrender has got this very standard list. Even though he's only running one True Aim Crescent, he was the absolute king of drawing it last week with his Face Hunter. It felt like every game he was getting True Aim into Rhino, which is, I think, probably a big deal in all of these matchups. True Aim should be premium against the Rogue, we know, and against aggro matchups of Aggro Druid and Face Hunter, True Aim Crescent is such a sick way to swing board back.
Definitely agree. It can allow him to get through the likes of Anoyatron very nicely. The way True Aim Crescent interacts with Divine Shield minions is especially useful. But we'll see. On the play is Alan, which is always a big deal in these aggro mirrors, but he doesn't have a one drop, so I'm expecting a full toss here. Even though you have Bone Chewer Brawler as a reasonable turn 2, I would want to give myself, if I were in Alan's shoes, the highest chance to find like Peasant or even Guardian Og Merchant or Squirrel.
Surrender's mulligan, on the other hand, though, is much more complicated, I think. I would honestly hear the argument for keeping every one of these cards, but I would also hear the argument for almost full mull.
I'm interested in the Rinlings. I think that's very good in the same way it is versus the Hunter Mirror, where it does kind of force your opponent to interact with the secrets one way or another. If you take one that protects your face and take another that protects your board. But Surrender disagrees, just keeping the cheapest minions here.
And while he does get himself a very powerful couple of plays in the starting turn, Alan's hand is looking awful. Even though we can't see one of the cards, it is a mule, and he's going to wish it was anything but, because no one drop on one, and then having to just curve out with, I mean, reasonably statted minions, 2-3, 2-4, 4-4. The Park Panther could be a big turnaround on turn 4. It's nowhere close to keeping up with what Surrender's doing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it, does it? And now he has the option of going Volpertinger here as well, rather than the Adorable Infestation. I would like to see that. Just along with Demon Companion, and then you drop the Adorable if you need to take a value trade. But he's going for Neophyte, first of all. That's interesting here.
That is interesting. I wonder what he's trying to play around as the immediate next play, because I thought just going as wide as possible did make sense. It gives him an answer to pretty much anything that comes down on the following turn. But I was thinking about just going wide with Volpertingers this turn, and then Demon Companion to try and hit Kolek on turn 2. That would make a good amount of sense. But unfortunately, Alan did play the Pack Mule that breaks the Spectator client, so we will have to wait a second before we get back into the action here. There we go.
Yeah. Well, Surrender's plan with the Neophyte was, I think, specifically because he had an Adorable Infestation that allows the Neophyte to interact well with all of the 2-mana 2/3s from Alan, of which there are Pack Mule, Razormane Battle Guard, and 4 Watch Posts. So that's pretty decent. The only 2-drop that's a bit awkward for Neophyte in that position is maybe a Noyatron. So the plan has clearly worked out for Surrender here. He gets to take a VT, and now he can play the Volpertinger pretty comfortably. I do think it's that over a Marcel Cobb. I still want maximum development here. Wow, really?
Damn. I wonder if he's trying to save Volpertinger until turn 3, so it's more likely to survive, so he can go Wrangler into the other Volpertinger, right, to buff it up. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because having one extra power on board leading up into a Demon Companion turn sounds very good. But the reasoning is there, I guess, at least.
I suppose, but in terms of the odds anything even gets cleared here for Surrender, if Alan's hero powering something, it's the Neophyte 100%. Alan hits Thorngrove Sentries, pretty good.
I mean, you can have 2 1/2 taunts, or you could have 2 2/7 taunts, right? Best in Shells, pretty good here.
Yeah, it does go to 5 mana, so you can play that on turn 5, but are we living that long? I don't know.
Oh, maybe not. Alan's sensible. He's taking his weird turtle tentacle monster hybrids instead of glorious bejeweled turtles.
Oh, this Warlock is so perfect for Surrender. I was going to say, the 1-2s at least challenged the board pretty nicely for Alan there, because Surrender is not running Wriggling Horror or anything, so the Turtles could have tried and protected the Peasant, but that's not necessarily the case here. It still makes for an awkward trade into the Peasant, though, because the Neophyte has to die here if Surrender wants to kill Peasant.
Does feel like it's still Volpertinger to me, just because of, again, as I said, the potential of Warsong Wrangler to buff them both up on the following turn. I guess you probably trade, as ugly as it is. It is just such a raw board battle in this matchup.
I would agree. However, the thing is, if you're trading here, you're committing to fully taking the board, which probably comes off the back of the buff Volpertingers, right? So if you play Volpertinger here and there's Park Panther, the Volpertingers are dead. So I wonder if Surrender was ever going to like save them for turn 5, maybe, and just play a Neophyte here. He settles on your line though. At least the Kolak is alive, so it makes the Park Panther a little bit more awkward here.
And all of a sudden, for Alan, it's starting to actually look not that bad. Park Panther on board and potentially sticking as well. Leading up into Oracle, Arbor up. He's got some strong plays, and Surrender is forced to come up with the goods in the next couple turns too.
I agree. I think Alan's just kind of in the lead here. I'm not sure, though, where he's going to attack with Park Panther, because you can kill both Volpertingers, or you can kill Kolak and 1, preserve more health on your Park Panther, but accept that Park Panther is dead if there is Warsong Wrangler.
I guess the upside is, though, that if they go Warsong Wrangler and pick Volpertinger, it at least means that their next turn is not necessarily as strong as Rhino. But with the way it works out for Surrender, he can go Wrangler, Volpertinger, and then Rhino potentially on turn 6 with that one buffed up at that point as well. It's a strong few turns for both players, and I still don't know who's in the lead.
I'm unsure. Both players have an Arbor up, essentially, here. Well, not really. Surrender can't get any more Volpertingers, but just landing these 2 that are currently buffed seems pretty decent on this board state. He can have the Rhino in hand and use that to get rid of Alun next turn. But the big scary thing is he can't kill the Alun this turn, so he's very likely to fall behind with any Wrangler play, I think.
And so does he just go tracking then? He can already go Warsong Wrangler to kill off one of the mules. But the problem is then it's very limited answers that actually kill a 4 health minion. It has to be like piercing shot exactly to be able to take it out.
Yeah, I think True Aim Crescent lets him do some funky stuff as well. I don't know.
Oh, true, yeah.
Well, maybe not. He doesn't have enough, like, there's too many taunts in the way. And not enough attacking minions. But it looks like he is going to go for exactly the piercing shot. And I kind of respect it. Leaving a Loon on board is just kind of a death sentence in this matchup. Here it goes.
True aim, okay, but again, as we were saying, I don't know if there's necessarily the clear available. He's just going with Rhino for the next turn, though, and hoping that the good old-fashioned trampling Rhino can get there. It's going to be so, so close.
Yeah, the True Aim on this turn never allows him to clear the Alun, but it does make up for a much better next turn in the world where the Alun does get some additional value. And she certainly is. That's an insane top deck for Alan here. He's not actually getting that much value from the Battle Guard's effect itself, but just being able to copy it as another minion is just stats. That's all you need in the matchup.
Yep, filling out his mana so that he can go Park Panther, which again is just absolutely bananas. I can't believe I overlooked this card during the card reviews, because just in terms of raw power, it's insane. It pulls back any board battle, it feels like. Even this disastrous start for Alan, where he missed out on all the good early game curves. Because now, for Surrender, we are looking at, you know, he can clear off the Alun and the Donkey. That's okay. He can clear off the Donkey and the Park Panther if he thinks that's more valuable. But he's still just susceptible to the hand that Alan has.
My kingdom for an extra mana here, says Surrender.
True.
If you could leave up just the battle cards, that's still a bit scary. Like, what if they have Greybow or Teacher's Pet? But the thing is, he simply cannot kill both the AlanC86 and the Park Panther this turn. The Pack Mule is making that impossible. So he has to choose which of these is more threatening at the moment. And I'm inclined to say it's the Panther, because Alan did not play 2 Teacher's Pets last turn. He spent 4 mana for a full card. Maybe you can make the read that the AlanC86 is not giving him that much additional value at the moment.
What if he just goes wide on this turn instead? He can play everything other than the Rhino, Guardian Orc Merchant to take out the Panther, kill the Donkey, I guess, or the Mule with the Neophyte, and then set up for Rhino next turn, and at the very least it means he has some stats in play.
That was interesting. Going with killing the AlanC86 though, which means that Alan has... Is this lethal? Wait. 8 plus 6, 14. Not quite. It's 20 damage by my count with hero power.
Wow.
But it's still an Arbor up turn.
Absolutely.
As long as he doesn't face tank 7 here, he's golden.
Literally just needs to not die for a turn, and I think he's very happy, and killing the Rhino means that's almost an impossibility. Surrender looked at the start like he may be getting the 3-0 sweep, but now Alan finally getting his foot in the door. The Hunter loses the first game, Surrender feeling the pressure, and maybe Alan's strategy that looked like it was targeting these control decks is reliant more so on doing better against this weak aggro deck right now. Face Hunter is just bad, it feels like, into all the other board-based early game decks, because all its early game is just too fair by comparison.
Sorry, what are the other early game board-based decks aside from aggro Druid?
Rogue, I would argue, like Druid, just because, you know, Octobot, what it's doing in the early game is just more powerful. Paladin even as well, which is relatively popular as well. It feels like Hunter struggles to keep up against even that.
Fair enough, if they're running City Tax, does feel like Hunter's early boards can be a bit susceptible. I don't think the deck is bad overall by any means though, and Alan still has an uphill climb if he wants to sweep this versus Surrender, because even though he does have this Garrote Rogue, which, like you said, I completely agree, the Octobot is amazing in the matchup. Surrender has access not just to the game plan A of Face Hunter, but the Rhino Chewing Present plan, which he did somewhat try and go for last game, which is very effective versus Rogue.
It is. It is indeed, but will it be quick enough is the question, because if they're popping up with one of these big board-based approaches, with or without field contact even, in these early turns, Rhino on turn 5, turn 6 is just too slow some of the time, because once those boards stick around and you go Kazakus for buff, as we very often see, at that point, the Rogue is absolutely laughing. And I think for Alan here, I would obviously keep the field contact. The Prize Plunderer is interesting, and I actually quite like that he's holding on to it.
Yeah, I like it as well. A lot of the times versus Hunter, you don't need field contact to draw like 6, 7 cards. If you can just maneuver it where you clear the entire board and land the field contact early enough that the Hunter has to play something awkward like aim shot to kill it, you can buy yourself enough tempo in that regard. Surrender with a very awkward opening hand, but at least top decked a 1-drop he could play this turn. It's going to have to be runner curve from here though, because aim shot is not looking good for turn 3.
It's not, is it? Especially with Alan having Coin Octobot, card draw, field contact, Prize Plunderer. It's the dream hand against Hunter. And Neophyte, okay, is maybe the one thing that's giving Surrender some hope, because he can at least spend his mana in the early turns.
Yeah. That's probably one of the best top decks he could have had in this situation. It does make for Alan's immediate next turn to be quite awkward as well, because even with the discount, the Neophyte would reset the Shroud of Concealment to 3 mana. And so Alan probably just ends up on Dagger, which is kind of a win for Surrender.
Okay, yeah, it just depends how Alan wants to sequence his next few turns, because then it could either be Shroud into field contact on turn 4, or just field contact, Prize Plunder, and hope for a 1-drop as well would also be reasonable.
And I think Surrender should always proc this for Alan. Like, just don't allow them to discount one more card.
I agree. The 1 damage face doesn't feel worth it. It's just because the Neophyte is in play. You know they can't go Shroud or Swindle, even with a prep alongside it. It would be tough.
Like I said, for Alan, feels like just a simple dagger turn. It's a bit scary to have to face tank the 3 from the Neophyte again next turn, but he's gearing up for a big swing turn, probably on turn 4. Which seems like not too late in this situation.
Yeah, I agree completely. Hold on to the dagger, take the VT while you can before the Neophyte takes out your Octobot.
Is it taking it out?
I guess not. Yeah, maybe it's just going face instead.
Is it aim shot phase as well? Oh, I don't know. Maybe too early. Maybe see what's in the tracking. There's still some decent outcomes here.
Yeah, it's more so where my head is at. If you can get the True Aim Crescent pre-equipped, it means that for turn 5 it's ready to go. Felmore instead here, yeah, it spends your mana.
Okay. Now that you're on a Felmore game plan, though, I think maybe you do take the trade into the Octobot, just reduce the targets where the Felmore can go, but he is not interested. Fair enough, Surrender.
Oh, this one's getting tough. It does just look like it's not quite ready for field contact yet. You want to juice it up a little bit more. But how you go about that is actually kind of interesting, because on this turn, minions are okay to draw. They're not bad at all. But Shadow Step is what I really want to get this Octobot replayed.
I really like the minions, though, because they have stealth this turn. Alan has so many shots at landing a 1-cost one, meaning he doesn't have to face tank the Neophyte, and he puts a stealth minion on board.
Good point.
I think this is good. Like, in this matchup, just getting 1 iota too greedy can mean disaster for the Rogue, I think.
You're absolutely right. And well, speaking of greedy, I don't think it's necessarily that to do so with the Warsong Wrangler for Surrender. It's just the expected game plan here, curving out into Rhino. I don't think I'm looking at Vulpetinger here, right? Your opponent is so likely to play a bunch of minions for the Rhino to attack into.
Sorry, completely agree it's Rhino, but obviously Surrender doesn't necessarily feel like that is good enough to win the game, because the difference of Rhino with weapon and without is just miles and miles apart. Like, he has to spend 10 mana across 2 turns to get the same damage he would in 5 mana in 1 turn if he simply had a weapon equipped. Here we go. Garrote just to get the Prize Plunder to deal enough damage.
Yeah, I mean, alternatively, you can hope for a like Shadow Step or a different 1-drop off the top to more effectively spend your mana. Could even theoretically be Secret Passage, right? To look for that extra Shadow Step.
Yeah. I do agree with not Garrote here, though, because it would have made the Prize Plunder deal 3, which means you still have to face tank the Wrangler. So if it's a difference between 2 and 3, I'd rather just deal the 2 and then kill it with the Og Merchant. Okay, Falma, what's it gonna be? Not field contact and not face. That's a disaster. Surrender cannot kill the field contact.
Yeah, there were 2 good places, 2 bad places. Hit one of the bad places, and now Surrender is in big trouble. I guess you're looking at just kill off the Orc Merchant to send 6 damage face with the Rhino.
Does that ever get there? You deal another 6 the next turn, very likely. 12, and then you don't even set up aim shot. No, I don't think it ever gets there.
So what's the alternative?
Get exactly True Aim Crescent from the tracking and kill the contact with aim shot.
Okay, that's reasonable.
And the Crescent is alive for the Rhinos. I legitimately think that's Surrender's best out.
Yeah, I guess
look
saying
like a complete idiot if you don't hit the Crescent.
it would look a bit funky, yeah. And I guess the alternative out that he's going for, as Alan draws his entire deck, is to say that if he gets True Aim Crescent as the very next card, he can maybe then go Rhino double attack and set up lethal the turn after that way. But either way, it's super slim.
One of Brain Freeze has entered the hand. There is the option to step the Foxy Fraud and get the Swindle for free.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Just so powerful. Arcanist, obviously not a tech card for this matchup in particular, but while Alan's doing his thing, I guess we should talk about what the Arcanist does in Rogue altogether, because it's not what you might necessarily expect.
Quite right, yeah. Despite what the card text reads on Talented Arcanist saying your next spell has +2 spell damage, what it actually functions as is you have +2 spell damage until you play a spell. And so if you play Talented Arcanist and then draw with a Battle Cry off of your off of your field contact, every bleed in your deck will get +2 spell damage. So it's a pretty funky way of getting an alternate win condition with the spell damage there off of Arcanist. I don't know if it's necessarily intended. It's slightly weird wording if it is, but it's a powerful tool in Rogue's arsenal.
That's right. Thank you for that lovely intermission while Alan has completed mission versus Surrender here, and he has cleverly also left everyone 1 health, which means that even if there were Truing Crescent plus Rhino here for Surrender, he couldn't quite trample that many. I guess the Divine Shield kind of functions as 2 health, but like he has to take 3 in the meantime. And that's still kind of fine for Alan because he has very likely lethal next turn.
Yeah, almost certainly. So for Surrender, I think your best chance is just to close your eyes and say they don't have lethal against me. I don't necessarily know how that's possible, but outside of that, I don't think you're winning the game anyway. And saying, what are my outs for lethal in the next couple turns? If you go Piercing Shot Hero Power, which deals 7, brings them down to 14. Trampling Rhino plus True Aim Crescent next turn still wouldn't get there. Even with a Hero Power, you can't fit that in. I just see absolutely nothing.
I do think Surrender went for his best play here, though, trying to find Rinling's Rifle, because 14 is not doable from 7 HP. He's just trying to get Explosive Trap and not die here, but he doesn't find it. And Alan, I don't even think he has to attack here. He has 1 spell damage already preloaded, so it's like Octobot. Oh, he's going to try and prop the Explosive to get the Octobot. Pretty cool, but Surrender didn't hit it.
Yeah, Alan's like, damn, he missed the 1 secret that gives him a chance.
And now you go Garrot, then Arcanist, play Neophyte. Is there space? Maybe not.
Yeah, you might have to go like Garrot, Shadow Step your Ethereal Orc Merchant, replay it, and then go Talented Arcanist, double 1 cost Battle Cry. I think gets you essentially guaranteed lethal, right?
Maybe he doesn't even have to play Arcanist.
Oh, he's stepping the Octobot instead. Okay, I mean, there's so many ways you can go about it here.
Like, knowing it's not Explosive Trap, you can also just go face with the minions, so you don't actually need the Arcanist to hit any breakpoints. I was just kind of hoping he would do it, so we got to show the feature of why it's in the deck. But yeah, that looks like enough leads to me, Derek.
I agree. Yeah, extra 3 damage. Okay, no disasters here. Alan's got the job done.
Oh? Yeah,
yes.
With the minion attacks. Okay.
Okay. A little bit scary there. We've seen some disasters in APAC. Our trust has been slowly eroded over the weeks, but Alan, no such mistakes here, bringing us all the way to game 5. Hunter and Druid not getting the job done for him in the first couple turns, but then the Druid one, the Rogue one, and now it comes all the way down to the 50-50, the Mirror Gear, for the chance to play Possessi in the winner's bracket match. It could not be any tighter than this.
No, it can't. Alan has not just the potential to reverse sweep this series, but it feels like he has the potential to reverse sweep this season, starting off with loss after loss after loss, and then going for back-to-back wins and second place finishes. If he could end it out with a ticket to the World Championship, that would be an amazing story indeed, but Surrender's not going to make that easy. Surrender, I'm really hoping he gets to show us even more than this, because this is the last season we're seeing him in Grandmasters. I'm savoring every moment we get to see left. I hope he'll take a sip of his tea, look to the left, and grimace. I'm just filling out my surrender bingo card here.
I know, it's just the most uninteresting stuff, but we're simple folk here over in Asia Pacific. We like watching Surrender look to the left is apparently what passes for entertainment here. It's better than what ever's happening on the casting desk, at least. But in terms of this specific matchup, Gia, with the Face Hunter versus the Face Hunter, I'm looking through the list. I'm seeing a couple of differences. Obviously, both players are running Felmors, but Alan has still gone for a list where he techs in one Bone Chewer Brawler as well.
And I do think that's going to be a bit of an advantage in the early game because it lines up very well against the likes of Intrepid Initiate, unless there's Adorable Infestation to go with it, and Vulpertinger. It's just allowing you to trade nicely on board. And these aggro mirrors, it's actually more important to have health on your minions rather than attack. The Felmors generally feel quite slow in the matchup and easily abusable because you tend to play a lot of minions, so it's hard to direct the Felma to get a good trade. But if that's your only option, you're still going to go for it on curve. The big thing for Alan, in my opinion, is the fact that he's got 2 True Aim Crescents. Again, you're not likely to play more than one throughout the course of the game, but if you're more likely to find it, that's a big plus because that allows you to get so much more efficient trades, and even just a one-attack weapon can be super useful in the matchup.
Oh, spicy start for both players. Surrender's got himself theoretically perfect mana utilization in the starting turns, but obviously the Initiate makes things a little awkward, right? You want to play it on 1, but then are you going to play Demon Companion on turn 2? We can cross that bridge when we come to it, but it does mean that Surrender has some choices up ahead.
I mean, in a lot of worlds, you would favor Neophyte first if you haven't seen the coin. But now that he has seen it from Alan, okay, his Initiate is dead, so he is probably still just going to play the Neophyte. But he at least leaves himself the option of playing 1-drop, right, if he drew another one off the top. Yeah, spend your mana, Neophyte. It is dead to just trade in weapon, but it's all about being efficient here.
Yep, agree completely. And for Alan, again, this interaction that we so often see with Org Merchant here is really annoying because he can't go Org Merchant, then swing. He can't go swing, hold up Vulpertinger, and then Org Merchant. He has to just go for killing off straight away. But the Felmor, at the very least, makes this a bit cleaner.
And I guess what the weapon does here is allow Alan to push 1 extra damage phase by going with the Vulpertinger first. That can be a big deal in this matchup. Very specific breakpoints you have to think about, like 12 is a big one, aim shot, quick shot, hero power.
All right, insta-crick, tracking in hand, not bad either to find either the wife or the potential Barrack Kodobane as well. But it's going to have to come through quickly because Alan is starting to make big plays.
That's an upgrade, probably.
Yeah, this... Obviously, he couldn't have maneuvered the order any better here because you have to play the Demon Companion first before going Guardian Org Merchant, but a bit annoying that he has to overkill the Man-Crick. It's okay though, because he's ahead on board. Thelma waking up next turn. Surrender, tracking to find the wife. Insta, right?
I do think so, yeah. You can start with the Initiate, I guess, theoretically.
Let me work my magic.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything you'd rather play for 3 mana if you find it, so fair enough. Get that in there. Org Merchant, just to ping off the Kolak.
Pretty good, isn't it?
You can also play the other Demon Companion. Go wide, make the Felma a bit more awkward for Alan. And he's just playing cheap stuff, so the quick shot has a good chance of drawing a card in the near future.
Magical.
Hey? Yima's good here.
And it still probably has to be kill off the opposing Kolek, right? I think that's still better than giving Divine Shield to one of your minions.
Yeah, I mean, it works out similarly. You leave a 1-1 that deals with the shield, and the difference is that Alan has initiative on how to deal with it.
Yeah, it's just that with the Felmor attacking, maybe it smacks into a Divine Shield, but I don't even want to take that risk.
Yeah. Okay, that's the best target for Surrender here.
Ooh!
Wow. On Star Wrangler, right?
Oh, yeah. And then, oh, it gets a little bit tricky afterwards. He's going to have used up probably every charge of his weapon. But I think it's still Rhino, right? With one in hand, getting the other one, buffing them both up. That's a lot of damage.
I think it's pretty good. Just plays 7-6 rushes. 2 turns in a row. Ooh, that's strong.
Super strong.
Okay. Wife.
Oh!
Misses again. He can take a cheap card though that lets him draw with the quick shot. Actually, it might just be the other quick shot so he can kill both the minions. Oh wait, one of them's 4 health, my bad.
Yeah, I can't quite remember what the breakpoints are at, because he has a 3 attack and a 2 attack minion on board, which makes quick shot a bit awkward. You're overkilling it no matter what. And so maybe it's just adorable to buff up your initiate.
Yeah, and he can play the 1 cost as well, spend all the mana, and then you just ignore the Wrangler by that point, I think. Just send everything else face. You can argue for Demon Companion and Quick Shot, then try to hit Runner another 1 cost spell, but that's unlikely, so I'd rather go for the Infestation to have a guaranteed additional 1/1 on the board. Like, obviously that looks bad to do when your opponent is playing Rhinos, like playing cheap things, but Surrender's only realistic way to win the game is by racing Alan here. There's no way he's beating Rhinos on board. Quick Shot. Sends it to the dome. It's the exact play we talked about, but can Surrender get there fast enough? Not with a Felma!
Yeah, I don't know about that. The way that the ordering works here with Dream is again a little bit awkward, however, because if you go Rhino into the 2-2 and then Wrangler trades into the 4-3, obviously that means Rhino would be the first thing to attack, but then there's only 1 health minions left.
You did it, Derek.
I remembered. I know. I finally remembered. So I guess you go like Rhino into the 2-2 and then 3-4 takes out a 1-1 and then you just attack in... maybe you just don't even attack with the True Aim Crescent.
I wonder.
Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, I guess he's just trying to get double value from the Warsong Wrangler. That's actually fine, right? Because
that's pretty
he gets
good,
to then use the Wrangler to trade up into the Initiate, and then the Rhino takes out a 1/1. So he's pushing 6 damage here.
Yeah, this is very clever. I like this positioning, this ordering from Alan.
Okay. Oh my god, what does he shoot though?
Oh, you ever shooting the 1/1 right? You deal 5. They go down to... what, 7? Which means aimed shot is lethal on the following turn?
I wonder.
But if it's not aim shot, you are very, very dead by leaving a Rhino on board.
You don't have a read on second Rhino, obviously, because I'm pretty sure Alan played the correct one that was drawn off the War Song. But he is losing this game. He's just lower on resources. Felmore is almost a dead card at this point.
The thing is, for Alan, for Surrender, even if Alan has not second Rhino, any minion essentially allows Alan to set up 2-turn lethal because Surrender is simply not developing anything else. So he's going to take 7 across 2 turns plus another minion and then hero powers that is very likely to add up to 23 or more. So Surrender is just wondering what are the odds that he gets enough health here. I like this though, it's an optimization. He's still dealing the same amount of damage by playing or trading the 1/1, but he leaves himself a bit less vulnerable to second Rhino.
Rhino comes down. Rhino on the other side! Oh no, it's too small! Hero power pass, I guess, and then again we're looking at outs.
So that Alan has to kill it.
I guess, yeah, you would rather go face with their Rhino, wouldn't they?
I don't think Alan's ever gonna play a small minion by this point. Okay, you don't have any individual outs for lethal if your Rhino is killed, but that's the thing, you're forcing Alan to kill your Rhino. I guess if the Felma goes face,
right,
So then Alan's at 6, which means aim shot, once again an out for lethal. Quick shot into draw. There's still the wife in Surrender's deck, I forgot.
Wife is a big game changer here. That could theoretically be the missing link to getting lethal for Surrender. Obviously, if you don't play the Rhino as well and the Felmore goes into the Rhino, it's going to be at 1 health, and then you could potentially attack in then. I don't know if that gives you the lethal out that you need.
I don't know, Derek. It's so close.
Oh, it's so tough. He plays it.
Playing it, yeah. I think he has to. Okay. It's pretty simple here for Alan, right? Piercing shot, hero power. Next turn, if the Felmog goes face, you have piercing shot that, and quick shot, hero power. If it goes into the Rhino, you have piercing shot your own Rhino. It's lethal.
Yeah.
Oh no! He would have had lethal!
He would have
He can kill the
won!
Rhino. No, he can still win. He just kills the Rhino now, right? I mean, you have to get another good top deck, but you can survive versus Alan's hand.
Oh God, my heart can't take it.
Me neither. He 100% has to quick shot the Rhino. There's just no way he lives by leaving that on board, I think.
Agree completely.
Thing is, even if you aim shot and hero power face, you still have to get a top deck to find lethal after that. Because Alan will be at 4. So, again, if you just hero power face with the quick shot going on the Rhino, Alan will be at 7. So you need to have another aim shot top deck or a quick shot into something or wife plus something.
Yeah. Barrack Codobane would be 1 mana too expensive, right? Because you wouldn't be able to go for aim shot plus hero power.
Yep. Alright. Okay. And now Alan kind of has to find another top deck of his own. There's just no piercing shot targets for a very long time. Okay, there's one.
So that's 4 damage. You can hero power as well.
That's only 7, so
Brings
a quick shot hero
7.
power isn't enough for the next turn.
Oh my God, this is so close. How is Surrender still in this game?
He played the 5/5 Rhino. That was the difference maker.
Actually was, yeah.
Okay, he's going for a quick shot instead here. I think this is clever because Alan now leaves himself like a Guardian Og Merchant top deck or any 1 health minion top deck as a better piercing shot target. Disaster! That's the game.
Oh, it was so close. No way to kill off the Neophyte, no way to get lethal. Alan can't even look because he knows there are outs for Surrender. But Alan, mate, you're safe. You're through to face Possessi in the winner's bracket match.
I've never seen a Hunter Mirror go like this. Just grueling. Top deck war towards the end. Sottle cheering in the background because Felmos were the worst cards on the game.
It's Sottle's dream, right? Felmore's bad and Alan wins. He's just pinching himself to try and wake up at this point. But for Alan, huge congratulations to go through to the winner's bracket match. Well deserved. I think impeccably played throughout on both sides. I struggle to think of anything that I can really pick up on as real mistakes from either competitor. The real creme de la creme here in Asia Pacific, and I'm incredibly happy for Alan. For Surrender, it's a tough one, obviously, because he's been through to the World Championships before. We know he's the caliber of player who belongs there. But for the moment, the dream is still alive, but it's looking harder and harder to get there because his next match is going to be in the relegation match against Shaxi.
Yes, not relegation.
Elimination, sorry, yes.
But yeah, essentially in Surrender's case, it is sort of a relegation match because if he loses that, that's it. He's retiring next season by his own choice. So we won't be seeing him once again. It would be his last match in Grandmasters. However, I don't want to just frame it like Surrender, I wanted to win because of that, because I also think Shaxi would be a very, very worthy contender. Let's not forget last season, Shaxi was the finalist as well, facing off against, sorry, that was 2 seasons ago, my bad. Last season it was Blitzchung versus Possessi, but prior to that, Shaxi had been, I believe, in 2 finals in a row, just getting very, very narrowly a little bit more, and he would have been to the World Championship.
Oh, so close, but still in for some very, very exciting matches. I think it's going to be for our next match, Alan versus Possessi. I think we're doing the winners match first and then moving down to the elimination and decider bracket, which of course will decide who's going through to the semi-finals on Sunday. At the end of this weekend, there's only really one winner. One player goes through to the World Championships, and I honestly could not decide who I would be most excited for. Possessi getting the win, even though he's already going through to the World Champs, would be hype as all hell. Alan, after his disastrous start, would be hype as all hell. One final victory lap for Surrender, potentially getting his one missing achievement in becoming the world champion.